The eviction notice came on her 52nd birthday. 3 years later, she was signing a $2 million deal in the same building where she once stood in line for food stamps. But let me take you back to that day. The day everything I thought I knew about my life dissolved like sugar in rain. It was October 14th, and I woke up that morning still believing in fairy tales. Still believing that if you sacrificed everything for your children, they would somehow, someday, love you back. I was wrong, so terribly, devastatingly wrong. The envelope was thin. You know how some mail feels heavy with importance? This was the opposite. Light, almost weightless. Like it knew it was about to destroy everything, and wanted to make it as easy as possible to slip under my door. I picked it up from the faded welcome mat, the one that said "Home Sweet Home" in letters that had worn down to barely legible ghosts. My hands were shaking before I even opened it. You develop an instinct after living on the edge for so long. Your body knows before your mind catches up. The paper inside was crisp, official, cold. Notice to vacate premises. You have 30 days to remove yourself and all belongings from the property located at 2847 Elm Street, apartment 3B. 30 days. On my 52nd birthday. The universe really had a sense of humor. I stood there in my small kitchen, the one where I'd made thousands of meals for my kids, where I'd celebrated every birthday, every holiday, every moment that was supposed to matter. The coffee maker was still gurgling behind me, making the last pot I'd ever brew in this apartment. The smell of cheap coffee mixed with the scent of failure. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, my daughter. "Happy birthday, Mom. Can't make it today. Kids have soccer. Maybe next week?" There was no next week planned. There never was. Sarah had mastered the art of vague promises that dissolved into nothing. Michael, my son, hadn't even texted yet. He would, though, usually around 3 p.m., when he needed money. Like clockwork. I looked around my tiny apartment. 22 years I'd lived here. 22 years of memories soaked into these walls. I could still see the mark on the door frame, where I'd measured Sarah and Michael every year, watching them grow from babies to adults who barely remembered I existed. The stain on the carpet from when Michael spilled grape juice at age 7. The crack in the ceiling that I'd stared at during countless sleepless nights after my husband David died. David. If he could see me now, 5 years since his heart attack, and I'd slowly bled out all his life insurance money trying to keep everyone afloat. $140,000. Gone. Every penny spent on keeping my children comfortable while I drowned. Sarah needed help with her down payment. Michael needed his rent covered, just this once, which turned into 12 times, which turned into 24 times. They needed new cars, needed help with utilities, needed. And I gave and gave and gave, until there was nothing left but this thin piece of paper telling me I was officially out of options. The rent had been $1,100 a month. I'd been late 4 times in the last 6 months. Mrs. Chen, my landlord, had been patient. More patient than I deserved. But patience runs out, especially when you're 73 years old and need to sell the building before you die. I couldn't blame her. I could only blame myself for thinking love could be stretched as thin as my bank account. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where David and I had shared our morning coffee for 15 years. The same table where I'd fed my babies, helped with homework, planned our modest vacations. Everything we'd built, everything we'd dreamed, reduced to furniture I'd have to sell for pennies. My phone buzzed again. Michael, right on schedule. "Hey Ma, can you spot me $200? Electric bill is due, and I'm short. I'll pay you back Friday when I get paid." He never got paid Friday. There was always some excuse. The boss held the check. The bank made an error. He needed it for something else first. The lies had become so familiar they were almost comfortable. I stared at his message. I had $247 in my checking account. That was it. That was everything standing between me and absolute zero. If I gave him $200, I'd have $47 to figure out how to move my entire life in 30 days. For the first time in my life, I typed 2 letters that felt like betrayal. No. I hit send before I could change my mind. Before the guilt could wrap its familiar fingers around my throat and squeeze. The 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. Then they disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, a message. Seriously, it's $200. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I wanted to scream. I wanted to send him a photo of the eviction notice. I wanted to tell him that I'd spent $73,000 on him in 5 years. $73,000. I'd done the math one sleepless night, adding up every rent payment, every loan that was never repaid, every emergency that was never really an emergency. But I didn't send the photo. I didn't scream. I just turned my phone face down on the table and watched my coffee get cold. The morning sun came through the window, the same sun that had watched me fail slowly, day by day, decision by decision. I thought about calling Sarah. Maybe she'd let me stay with her for a while, just until I figured things out. Just until I could find a cheaper apartment. Maybe get a roommate. Maybe work 3 jobs instead of 2. I picked up the phone, put it down, picked it up again. My finger hovered over her name. Pride is a funny thing. It keeps you warm until it freezes you to death. But something deeper than pride stopped me. It was the memory of last Christmas, when I'd shown up at Sarah's house with gifts for the kids, and she'd barely let me stay an hour. Her husband Tom had made it clear I wasn't welcome. "We have family time planned," he'd said, as if I wasn't family. As if I hadn't given birth to the woman standing behind him, nodding in agreement. I couldn't call her. I couldn't give her another opportunity to make me feel like a burden, like something to be tolerated rather than loved. So I sat there, on my 52nd birthday, holding an eviction notice, and realizing I had nowhere to go, and no one to turn to. The American dream had turned into an American nightmare, and I was the last one to figure it out. My 2 jobs barely covered my basic expenses. I worked mornings at a discount grocery store, scanning items and smiling at customers who didn't see me. In the afternoons, I cleaned office buildings, scrubbing toilets, and emptying trash cans for people who made more in a day than I made in a month. I was invisible. A ghost who worked and paid bills, and somehow still ended up here, holding this paper, facing this impossible situation. I thought about my mother. She'd died 10 years ago, but I could still hear her voice. "Linda Mija, you can't pour from an empty cup," she'd warned me. She'd seen what I was doing to myself, how I was disappearing piece by piece to keep everyone else whole. But I hadn't listened. I'd thought she didn't understand. I'd thought I was different. I'd thought my love would be enough to fill every gap, solve every problem, heal every wound. The coffee maker beeped, signaling the end of its cycle, the end of something. I stood up and poured myself a cup, black because I'd stopped buying milk 2 weeks ago to save money. It tasted bitter. Everything tasted bitter now. I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot below. Phoenix was waking up. Cars starting. People heading to work. Lives continuing as if mine wasn't ending. Somewhere in this city, my children were living their lives, probably not thinking about me at all. Sarah was making breakfast for her kids. Michael was sleeping in, dreaming whatever dreams unemployed 25-year-olds dream. And I was here, 52 years old, with an eviction notice and $3 in my wallet. I'd never imagined my life would look like this. When David and I got married, we'd had such plans. Simple plans, but plans nonetheless. We'd buy a house one day. We'd travel when we retired. We'd watch our grandchildren grow up. We'd grow old together, sitting on a porch somewhere, holding hands and remembering all the good times. But David died at 47, clutching his chest in the middle of a work shift, and all those plans died with him. The life insurance was supposed to be our safety net. $140,000. It seemed like so much at the time. It seemed like enough to grieve, to recover, to rebuild. I had no idea how fast money disappears when you're trying to hold a family together with your bare hands. Sarah's husband had lost his job right after David died. They needed help. Michael had dropped out of college and needed support. The house we'd been saving for became a fantasy. The travel became a joke. Everything became about survival, about keeping everyone else afloat while I slowly sank. And now I'd hit bottom. My phone rang. Not a text. An actual call. I looked at the screen. Sarah. My heart jumped. Maybe she'd sensed something. Maybe mother-daughter intuition was real. Maybe she was calling to tell me she loved me, that she remembered it was my birthday, that she wanted to see me after all. I answered on the third ring, trying not to sound too desperate. Hello, Mom. I need a favor. No happy birthday. No how are you. Just need. That word that had defined our relationship for 5 years. Tom's car broke down, and we need $800 for repairs. Can you transfer it today? We really need the car for the kids' activities. I looked at the eviction notice on the table. I looked at my bank account, pulled up on my laptop screen. $247. I looked at my reflection in the window, a tired woman who'd forgotten what it felt like to be someone's priority instead of someone's ATM. Sarah, I can't. I just received an eviction notice. I have 30 days to move, and nowhere to go. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, well, Mom, maybe if you'd been more responsible with your money, you wouldn't be in this situation. You can't expect us to keep bailing you out. The words hit me like a physical blow. Bailing me out. Bailing me out. I'd given her $28,000 over 5 years. $28,000. Every time she called with an emergency, I'd found a way. I'd skipped meals. I'd worn clothes until they fell apart. I'd worked double shifts until my feet bled. I'd cashed out my 401k early and paid the penalty. I'd sold David's tools, his watches, everything he'd left behind except his wedding ring, which I wore on a chain around my neck. And she thought I was the one being bailed out. I see, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I apologize for bothering you. Happy soccer game today. I hung up before she could respond. Before I could hear whatever else she had to say. Before I could give her another chance to break something inside me that was already shattered. Saying no to family is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But sometimes it's necessary for survival. Have you ever had to set boundaries with people you love? Share your story below. Your experience might help someone else find the strength to do the same. I called Michael. Maybe he'd be different. Maybe my son would remember that I was his mother, that I'd given him life, raised him, loved him, even when he was unlovable. He answered on the first ring. Ma, did you change your mind about the $200? Because I really need it. They're going to shut off my electricity. Michael, I'm being evicted. I have 30 days to move. I'm calling to see if maybe I could stay with you for a little while, just until I figure things out. Another silence. This one even heavier than Sarah's. Mom, you know I can't do that. My place is tiny. It's basically a studio. And I'm not even sure I'll be here next month. I might move in with my girlfriend. Your girlfriend who I've never met. Yeah, well, we're taking it slow. Look, Ma, I gotta go. I'll call you later. He hung up. Just like that. No, I'm sorry. No, let me think about it. No, maybe we can figure something out. Just click, and dial tone, and the sound of my heart breaking in a way I didn't know was still possible. Have you ever given everything to someone who gave you nothing back? If you have, drop a comment below. You're not alone in this. Sometimes we need to hear that we're not the only ones who felt this kind of pain. I sat back down at the table. The coffee was cold now. Everything was cold. I pulled out my laptop and started searching for apartments I could afford. The cheapest one was $750 a month, and they wanted first month last month, and a security deposit. $2,250. I had $247. I looked at rooms for rent, $500 a month, plus utilities, plus deposit. Still impossible. I looked at weekly motels. $200 a week. $800 a month, for a room the size of a closet with bedbugs and violence seeping through the walls. The math was simple and brutal. I couldn't afford to live anywhere. I opened a new tab and typed words I never thought I'd type. Homeless shelters, Phoenix, Arizona. A list appeared. Mercy House Shelter, Hope's Door, St. Vincent de Paul, places I'd driven past 1,000 times, dropping off donations, feeling good about myself for helping those people. Never imagining I'd become one of those people. Never imagining the distance between charity giver and charity recipient was just one bad year, one wrong decision, one eviction notice. I clicked on Mercy House. They had space. First come, first served. Intake between 4 and 6 p.m. daily. Bring ID. No weapons. No drugs. No alcohol. Lights out at 9 p.m. Out by 7 a.m. Maximum stay, 90 days. 90 days to fix a life that had taken 52 years to break. I spent the rest of my birthday sorting through my possessions, deciding what fit in 2 suitcases and a backpack. Everything I owned, everything that proved I'd existed, reduced to what I could carry. The kids' baby photos went in. David's wedding ring stayed around my neck. The rest, all the furniture, the dishes, the memories packed into physical objects, would have to be sold or donated or abandoned. At 3 p.m., I got a text from Michael. Hey, can you send that $200 now? Need it ASAP. I deleted it without responding. At 4:30 p.m., I got a text from Sarah. Mom, I thought about what you said. Maybe you can stay in our garage for a little while. We'd need $400 a month for expenses though. She wanted to charge me rent to sleep in her garage. Her garage, where she kept Christmas decorations and broken furniture. I typed back, thank you, but I'll figure something else out. That night, I sold my TV for $50, my microwave for $20, my coffee maker for $15. Everything went for pennies, but pennies added up. By midnight, I had $372 in cash and 2 suitcases packed. I looked around my empty apartment one last time. 22 years of life, erased. The marks on the doorframe, the stain on the carpet, the crack in the ceiling, all witnesses to a life that no longer existed. I took a photo with my phone, not sure why, maybe to remember, maybe to remind myself of who I used to be. A woman who had a home, a woman who believed in fairy tales, a woman who thought love was enough. I slept on the floor that night, my last night in my home. The floor was hard and cold, but somehow fitting. A preview of what was coming. I didn't cry. I'd used up all my tears already. I just lay there, staring at that familiar crack in the ceiling, memorizing its shape, its pattern, its silent witness to my failure. When morning came, I woke up before my alarm. My body knew, some transitions don't need clocks. They just happen, inevitable as sunrise. I brushed my teeth one last time in my bathroom, made instant coffee with the last of my hot water, stood at the window and watched Phoenix wake up, completely indifferent to my pain. At 6 a.m., I loaded my 2 suitcases and backpack into my 2003 Honda Civic, the car that was probably dying, but I couldn't afford to fix. I walked back inside one more time. The apartment looked bigger, empty, sadder. The walls still held the faint rectangles where pictures had hung. The carpet still showed the indentations where furniture had lived for decades. I left my keys on the counter, closed the door, walked away from everything I'd known. I drove to the grocery store where I worked, parked in my usual spot. I had a shift starting at 7 a.m. Life didn't stop just because yours was ending. Bills didn't care about eviction notices. Work didn't care about broken hearts. I scanned items and smiled at customers and said have a nice day to people who didn't see me. During my break, I sat in my car and ate a granola bar that cost 79 cents. Lunch was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. At 2 p.m., my shift ended. I drove to the office building where I cleaned. 4 hours of scrubbing toilets and emptying trash, making $12 an hour, trying not to think about where I'd sleep that night. At 6:15 p.m., I pulled into the parking lot of Mercy House Shelter. The building was old brick, tired-looking, like it had seen too much sadness and couldn't hide it anymore. There was a line of people outside, 30, maybe 40 people. Men, women, a few families with kids. All of us carrying everything we owned. All of us pretending this wasn't happening. I parked and sat in my car for 10 minutes, trying to find the courage to get out. This was it. This was rock bottom. 52 years old, 2 jobs, and I was about to walk into a homeless shelter. The American dream in reverse. Work hard, sacrifice everything, end up with nothing. Finally, I got out. Grabbed my suitcases and backpack, locked my car, wondering if it'd be there in the morning. Walked to the line. Everyone avoided eye contact. We were all pretending to be invisible because being invisible was easier than being seen. The woman in front of me was young, maybe 25. She had a baby in her arms. The woman behind me was old, older than me, pulling a shopping cart full of plastic bags. We were all ages, all races, all failures in the eyes of society. United by this one thing, we had nowhere else to go. The line moved slowly. People disappeared inside one by one. Finally, it was my turn. A tired-looking woman with kind eyes sat behind a desk. "First time?" she asked gently. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "ID please, and I need to explain the rules." I handed her my driver's license. She copied down information, explained about check-in times, lights out, storage lockers, meals. Her voice was practiced, gentle, like she'd given this speech 1,000 times to 1,000 people just like me. "You'll be in Building B, bed 23. Here's your meal ticket for tonight. Dinner's at 7. Any questions?" 1,000 questions. How did I get here? How do I get out? How long until I stop feeling like I'm drowning? But I just shook my head. "Welcome to Mercy House, Linda. We're here to help." I walked to Building B, found bed 23. It was a cot with a thin mattress, a scratchy blanket, and a pillow that smelled like industrial detergent and other people's dreams. The locker next to it was smaller than I expected. I'd have to figure out what to keep close and what to leave in my car. Around me, women were settling in for the night. Some looked like they'd been here for a while, moving with the efficiency of routine. Others looked lost, like me. New arrivals to this place where dignity came to die. I sat on the edge of my cot and pulled out my phone. Maybe Sarah had texted. Maybe Michael had called. Maybe someone remembered that today was my birthday, that I existed, that I mattered. Nothing, no messages, no missed calls. Just a notification from my bank. "Your account balance is low, $247. I put my phone away and lay down on the cot. It was barely 7:30 p.m., but I couldn't face dinner, couldn't face sitting in a cafeteria, surrounded by other broken people. I just wanted to close my eyes and wake up from this nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was my life now, and I had no idea how to fix it. No idea where to start. No idea if starting was even possible. I closed my eyes and felt David's wedding ring against my chest, cold metal holding the ghost of a better time. "I'm sorry," I whispered to him, "to the life we'd planned, to the woman I used to be. I'm so sorry." And in that moment, lying on a cot in a homeless shelter on the day after my 52nd birthday, I truly understood what it meant to have nothing left to lose. If you're watching this and you've ever felt like you've hit rock bottom, I want you to know something. That feeling you have right now, that's not your ending. Keep watching, because what happens next might change how you see your own situation. What I didn't know yet was that having nothing left to lose can sometimes be the most dangerous weapon a woman can possess. The first morning at Mercy House, I woke up to the sound of a woman crying in the cot next to mine. Soft, muffled sobs that she tried to hide under her pillow. I understood. We all cried. We just didn't want anyone to see it. Didn't want to admit that we'd fallen this far. The fluorescent lights flickered on at 6 a.m. sharp. No gentle wake-up. No snooze button. Just harsh light, and the shuffle of 40 women trying to pack up their lives before the 7 a.m. exit time. I'd barely slept. The shelter was cold, noisy, full of coughs and whispers, and the sound of people pretending to be fine. I rolled up my blanket exactly as instructed, placed it on the cot, grabbed my backpack. Everything else went in my locker. The process was mechanical, designed to move people in and out efficiently. We weren't guests. We were problems to be managed. Outside, the morning air was crisp. Phoenix in October was beautiful, if you weren't homeless. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to figure out where to go. I couldn't go to work for another hour. Couldn't go anywhere really. Public restrooms became my morning routine. Fast food places where I could buy $1 coffee and use their bathroom to wash up, brush my teeth, try to look like I wasn't living in my car during the day and a shelter at night. That morning, I chose a McDonald's 2 miles from the shelter. The bathroom was cleaner than most. I locked myself in a stall and tried to make myself presentable. My reflection in the mirror looked haunted. Dark circles under my eyes, hair that needed washing, clothes that needed ironing. I looked exactly like what I was. A woman barely holding on. "You okay in there, honey?" A voice from outside the bathroom door. An employee probably wondering if I was shooting up, or something worse. "Yes, thank you. Just finishing up." I forced brightness into my voice. Forced normalcy. Walked out with my head high, bought my $1 coffee, sat in a corner booth scrolling through my phone until my shift started. The days blurred together. Work at the grocery store. Work at the office building. A few hours in my car, parked in various lots, trying to stay invisible. Back to the shelter at 4 p.m. to secure my bed for the night. Dinner at 7. Lights out at 9. Wake up at 6. Repeat. By the end of week 1, I'd lost 5 pounds. Not intentionally. Food just seemed optional when you were trying to survive. My body ran on coffee and granola bars, and the free dinner at the shelter, which was usually beans and rice, or watery soup with bread. Week 2, my car started making a weird noise. The check engine light came on. I ignored it, because I had $198 in my account, and that light meant at least $300 I didn't have. I just drove slower, prayed harder, made promises to a God I wasn't sure was listening. On day 11, something shifted. I was sitting in the shelter's common area, a large room with donated couches, and a TV that only played PBS. Most people avoided this room. Too much forced community, too much eye contact, too much reminder that we were all in the same boat, and the boat was sinking. But I was exhausted. My feet hurt from standing all day, my back hurt from bending over toilets. My soul hurt from everything. So I sat down on a worn blue couch and closed my eyes, just for a minute. First month is always the hardest. A voice beside me, deep, gentle, touched with a southern accent. I opened my eyes. An older black man sat next to me, maybe late 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes that had seen things. He wore clean clothes, carried himself with dignity that seemed impossible in this place. "Does it get easier?" I asked, surprising myself. I hadn't really talked to anyone since I arrived. Hadn't wanted to. Talking meant acknowledging this was real. "Not easier. Different. You learn the rhythm. You learn which shelter has the best food, which church gives out clothes on Wednesdays, which library lets you stay all day, without hassling you. You learn to survive." "I don't want to survive. I want to live." The words came out bitter. He smiled, but it was sad. Understanding. That's good. That means you still remember the difference. I'm Marcus Thompson. Linda Martinez. We shook hands, formal and strange in this place, where everyone was stripped down to their worst moment. But Marcus had this way about him, like he could create courtesy out of thin air, make dignity possible even here. What's your story, Linda Martinez? He asked it kindly, not nosy, like he actually cared about the answer. I hadn't told anyone my story, hadn't wanted to speak it out loud, make it real. But something about Marcus, about his calm presence, made me want to talk, so I did. I told him about David, about the life insurance I'd bled dry, about my children who'd taken everything and given nothing back, about the eviction notice on my birthday. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then you gave them fish instead of teaching them to fish, and now you're starving. It was harsh, true, undeniable. I'd made them dependent on me, and in doing so, made myself dependent on being needed. When I couldn't provide any more, I became useless to them. Disposable. I know, I whispered. I know that now. Question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. I'm 52 years old, living in a shelter, working 2 minimum wage jobs that barely cover my car insurance and phone bill. What can I do? Marcus leaned back, thoughtful. You'd be surprised what rock bottom can teach you. I was a business owner once, had 3 restaurants in Atlanta, lost it all in 2008, wife left, kids stopped calling, ended up here 5 years ago. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was describing someone else's life. 5 years. My heart sank. You've been homeless for 5 years. No, I was homeless for 6 months. Then I figured some things out. Now I'm here by choice. I volunteer, help people navigate the system, work part-time at a community center. I have an apartment, a car, a life, small life, but mine. I come back here twice a week to remember where I came from, to help people like you remember they're human. I stared at him. You got out. I got out. And so will you, if you stop waiting for someone to save you and start saving yourself. It should have sounded like a motivational poster, cheap wisdom. But coming from him, in this place, it sounded like prophecy, like permission. Think about it. When was the last time someone gave you permission to save yourself? Most of us are waiting for someone else to rescue us. But what if you're the rescue you've been waiting for? Let me know in the comments if that hits different for you. I don't know how, I admitted. Nobody does. That's the secret they don't tell you. Nobody knows how. You just start. One small decision at a time. One small victory. They add up. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus became my unexpected mentor. He taught me the survival map of Phoenix homelessness. Which churches had the best food pantries? Which programs could help with rental assistance? Which social services weren't complete dead ends? He introduced me to other people in the shelter, people who had stories like mine, people who were fighting their way back. There was Rita, a 60-year-old former nurse, who'd lost everything to medical bills after her cancer treatment. There was James, a veteran who couldn't hold down a job because of PTSD. There was young Destiny, 23, who'd aged out of foster care with no family and no safety net. We were a broken army, but we were an army. Marcus also taught me something else. Pride is expensive, and I couldn't afford it anymore. You're working 2 jobs, and still barely surviving, he said one evening. Why? Because I'm not a charity case. I can take care of myself. No, Linda, you can't. Not right now, and that's okay. That's not failure. That's reality. You need help. There's no shame in that. He made me sign up for food stamps. I'd avoided it for weeks, too proud, too ashamed. But he literally walked me to the Department of Economic Security, sat with me while I filled out forms, reminded me that I'd paid taxes for 35 years, and this was my money coming back to help me. The food stamps gave me $194 a month. Not much, but enough that I wasn't constantly hungry. Enough that I could buy real food instead of dollar menu items and granola bars. My body started to feel human again. He also made me go to the shelter's job training programs. Every Tuesday and Thursday, they had workshops, resume building, interview skills, computer literacy. I thought they were pointless. Who was going to hire a 52-year-old homeless woman? But Marcus insisted. "You're not building a resume for them," he said. "You're building it for you. You're reminding yourself that you have skills, experience, value. You're remembering who you were before life knocked you down." So I went. And slowly, something started to shift inside me. The workshops were taught by volunteers, people from the community who gave their time. One was Elena Rodriguez, a 45-year-old Latina woman who owned a food truck business. Elena was fire. Loud, confident, covered in tattoos, always wearing bright red lipstick even at 6 p.m. in a homeless shelter. She taught a class called Entrepreneurship 101 Inches, which seemed absurd. Who in a homeless shelter had the resources to start a business? But Elena didn't care about our circumstances. She cared about our minds. "Listen up," she said, on the first night I attended. "I'm not here to teach you how to fill out job applications. Plenty of people do that. I'm here to teach you how to think different, how to see opportunities where other people see nothing, how to build something from nothing, because that's all any of us have. Nothing. And nothing is the perfect place to start." She had this energy that was contagious. This belief that anything was possible, if you were willing to work hard enough, dream big enough, stop letting your circumstances define your future. I thought she was delusional at first, but I kept coming back to her class, because for 1 hour twice a week, I got to imagine a different life. On week 4 at Mercy House, Elena did something that changed everything. She brought her food truck to the shelter and cooked for everyone. Not the sad, institutional food we usually got. Real food. Tacos with handmade tortillas, fresh salsa, rice and beans that actually had flavor. She stood at her truck window, serving plate after plate, refusing payment, just feeding people who'd forgotten what it felt like to eat something made with care. I stood in line with everyone else, and when I got to the window, Elena really looked at me and said, "You're Linda, right? From my class." "Yes." "You like the food? It's incredible. Best thing I've eaten in, I can't remember how long." She smiled, big and genuine. "You cook." "I used to, before everything. I cooked for my family. Nothing fancy, just home cooking. Mexican food mostly. My mother taught me. She was from Guadalajara." Elena's eyes lit up. "Guadalajara. My abuela was from there." "What's your specialty?" "Mole. My mother's recipe. Takes 2 days to make it right, but it's worth it. And pozole, and tamales at Christmas. The real way, with corn husks and..." I stopped myself. What was I doing? Getting excited about cooking when I lived in a shelter and ate from food banks. But Elena wasn't laughing. She was listening. Really listening. "Come by my truck tomorrow. Noon. I want to talk to you about something." I didn't believe it would lead anywhere. People said things like that all the time. Nice words that evaporated. But the next day, I drove to the address she'd written on a napkin. And there was her truck. Elena's kitchen painted in bright yellow letters with red chili peppers decorating the sides. She was prepping for lunch rush, moving fast, chopping vegetables like a machine. When she saw me, she waved me over. "Good you came. I wasn't sure you would. Come inside." The truck's interior was small, hot, organized chaos. Every inch had a purpose. She handed me a knife and a cutting board. "Show me how you dice onions." "What?" "Show me. I need to know if you actually can cook, or if you were just talking." So I diced onions. The muscle memory came back immediately. Perfect cubes. consistent size, no wasted motion. My mother's voice in my head, a cook who can't dice onions can't do anything. Alina watched, arms crossed. Then she handed me tomatoes, then jalapenos, then cilantro. I diced everything, falling into a rhythm I'd forgotten existed, feeling useful for the first time in months. Okay, she finally said. You can cook. Question is, do you want to work? My heart jumped. You're offering me a job. Temp work. I need extra hands for an event this Saturday. Private party, 80 people. Pays $150 for the day. Cash. You interested? $150. For one day, that was more than I made in 2 days at my other jobs combined. Yes, absolutely yes. Good. Be here Saturday, at 8 a.m. Wear comfortable shoes. It's going to be a long day. I floated back to my car. This was it. This was the small victory Marcus had talked about. One opportunity, one chance to prove myself. One step up from rock bottom. That one opportunity changed everything. But here's the question. How many opportunities have you passed up because you didn't think you were ready? If this story is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button. There are more stories like this that might give you the courage to take your next step. That Saturday, I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. Alina's event was a quinceañera, a young girl's 15th birthday party. We cooked for hours in that tiny truck, pumping out tacos, enchiladas, rice, beans, agua fresca. The heat was unbearable. My feet screamed. My back ached. I loved every second of it. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. I was essential. Alina needed me. The food wouldn't get done without me. I mattered. At the end of the night, Alina handed me $150 in cash. You did good work today, Linda. Real good. You want to do this again? Whenever you need me. Tuesday. Another event. $150. Then Thursday. Then Saturday. Again. I'm getting more business than I can handle alone. I need someone reliable. Someone who knows food. You available? Was I available? I was living in a shelter. I had nothing but time and desperation. Yes. Good. One more thing. She pulled out an extra $50. This is advance for Tuesday. Go buy yourself decent work clothes and good shoes. Can't have you showing up to events in those falling apart sneakers. Represents my brand. I stared at the money. No one had invested in me in so long. Alina, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just show up on time and work hard. That's all I need. I did. I showed up early, worked late, learned everything Alina would teach me. How to manage time in a tiny space. How to keep food hot and fresh during transport. How to deal with difficult customers. How to price events. How to market. She was sharing her entire business blueprint, and I absorbed it like I was dying of thirst. Over the next 2 months, I worked every event Alina booked. Some weeks I made $300 extra. Some weeks $600. Combined with my 2 regular jobs, I was actually making progress. I opened a new bank account and started saving. $50 here, $100 there. Tiny amounts that started to add up. Marcus watched my transformation with pride. See, I told you, one small victory at a time. But the shelter had a 90-day maximum stay rule. Day 89 was approaching fast, and I still didn't have enough for a deposit on an apartment. I needed at least $2,000. I had $1,100 saved. Close, but not close enough. I tried to extend my stay, filled out forms, met with caseworkers. But the rules were clear. 90 days maximum. After that, I'd have to leave for at least 30 days before I could return. Which meant I'd be sleeping in my car, hoping it didn't die completely, trying to stay safe while working 3 jobs. On day 87, I had a breakdown. Not a quiet one. A full collapse in the shelter bathroom, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe, punching the wall until my knuckles bled. I'd worked so hard. I'd done everything right. And it still wasn't enough. Alina found me there. Somehow, Marcus must have called her. She sat on the floor next to me, not saying anything, just sitting. When I finally stopped crying, she handed me paper towels for my bloody knuckles. "You done feeling sorry for yourself?" She asked it without judgment, just practical. "For now, good. Because I have a proposition, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but hear me out." I waited, trying to stop my hands from shaking. "I'm expanding, opening a second truck. I have the vehicle, I have the permits, I have the business. What I don't have is time to run 2 trucks by myself. I need a partner. Someone who knows food, who works hard, who won't steal from me or disappear when things get tough." My heart started beating faster. "I've been watching you for 2 months, Linda. You show up, you work hard, you give a shit. That's rare. So here's the deal. You run the second truck. We split profits, 60 picks 40, my favor for the first year. After that, we renegotiate. You'll make way more than you're making now. Enough to get an apartment, get stable, build something real." "Alina, I don't have any money to invest. I can't buy into a partnership. I don't want your money. I want your labor, your skill, and your commitment. You in or out." It was insane. I was 3 days from being kicked out of a shelter, and she was offering me a lifeline disguised as a business partnership. I should have said yes immediately. But doubt crept in. What if I failed? What if I wasn't good enough? What if I let her down? "Linda," Alina said, reading my mind, "you've been letting people down your whole life because you gave them everything and they gave you nothing back. This is different. This is business. I'm not asking you to sacrifice yourself. I'm asking you to show up and do good work. You can do that. I've seen you do it. What if I can't? Then we figure it out. That's what partners do. They figure it out together." I took a deep breath, thought about Marcus telling me to start saving myself, thought about the woman I used to be, terrified and broke on the floor of an empty apartment, thought about the woman I could become. "I'm in." Alina smiled. "Good. Monday we start training you on the new truck. Oh, and one more thing. You can't run a food truck if you're homeless. You need an address, a phone that works, stability. So until you get your apartment, you're staying in my spare room, rent-free, non-negotiable." I started crying again, but different tears this time, not desperation, gratitude, hope, possibility. Have you ever had someone believe in you when you'd stopped believing in yourself? It changes something fundamental inside you. Alina saw potential where I only saw failure. She saw a future where I only saw endings. That night, I packed my 2 suitcases and left Mercy House on day 88. Marcus walked me out. "You did good, Linda. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you." "Sure you could have. I just reminded you who you were. You did the rest." I hugged him. This man who'd shown me that kindness still existed, that strangers could save you when family wouldn't. "Thank you for everything. You want to thank me? Come back here in 6 months and teach my class. Show them what's possible. That's how you thank me." I drove to Alina's house, a small but clean rental in a working-class neighborhood. The spare room was tiny but had a real bed, clean sheets, a closet. I sat on the edge of that bed and called my voicemail. 4 messages from Michael asking for money, 2 from Sarah complaining about her life. Nothing asking how I was, nothing caring. I deleted them all without listening completely. They had taught me an important lesson, though they never intended to. They taught me that blood doesn't mean loyalty. That family is what you build, not what you're born with. That sometimes the people who save you are strangers who become something more. I fell asleep that night in a real bed for the first time in 3 months, with David's wedding ring against my heart, and Alina snoring down the hall, and a future that finally looked possible. The next morning, I started learning how to run my own food truck, my own business, my own life. The food truck was a disaster. Let me be clear about that. Alina's second truck, my supposed ticket to a new life, was a 1998 Chevy that smelled like grease and broken dreams. The paint was peeling. The generator sputtered like an old man with emphysema. The refrigerator worked when it felt like it. "She's beautiful, right?" Alina said, patting the truck's dented side like it was a prize horse. I stared at it. "Alina, this thing looks like it should be in a junkyard." "Exactly. Nobody expects great food from a truck like this, which means when they taste your cooking, their minds will be blown. Low expectations, high delivery. That's the secret." She wasn't wrong. But standing there that first Monday morning, looking at this mechanical nightmare that was somehow supposed to be my future, I felt doubt creeping back in. What was I thinking? I was 52 years old. I'd never run a business. I'd never done anything except work for other people and raise kids who didn't want me. "Lena," Alina's voice cut through my spiral. "Stop it. I can see you thinking yourself out of this. Get in the truck. We have work to do." The first week was pure chaos. Alina taught me everything: how to prep efficiently, how to manage inventory, how to handle the propane system without blowing us up, how to navigate health inspections, how to deal with the city permits that made no sense. Every night, I fell into bed exhausted, my body aching, my brain overloaded, but I was learning. Actually learning. Not just following orders, but understanding the mechanics of running a business. Alina didn't hold back. She showed me her books, her profit margins, her supplier relationships, her marketing strategies. She treated me like an actual partner, not an employee. "You see this?" She pointed at her spreadsheet one night. "This is what most food trucks make in a month. This is what I make. The difference is hustle and quality. You can't control a lot in this business, but you can control those two things. You hustle harder than everyone else, and you make food so good people tell their friends. That's it. That's the whole formula." Week 2, she cut me loose. "You're taking the truck solo tomorrow. Small event. Just 30 people. Office lunch. You can handle it." "Alina, I'm not ready. Nobody's ready. You just do it anyway. I'll be one phone call away if you need me. But you won't need me." She was wrong. I needed her 3 times that first day. Forgot to turn on the warming trays. Ran out of rice because I'd miscalculated portions. Nearly set myself on fire, trying to light the propane. But I survived. Barely. The food was good. People ate everything. One woman asked for my card. I didn't have cards yet. Wrote my number on a napkin like an amateur. But I got the booking. She wanted me for her daughter's birthday party the next month. 50 people. $750. I called Alina from the truck, hands shaking. "I got a booking. On my own. Someone actually wants to hire me." "Of course they do. Your food is incredible. This is just the beginning, Mina." Mina. My daughter. Alina had started calling me that, and I'd started calling her the same thing, even though she was younger. We'd become something more than business partners. Something more than friends. We'd become the family both of us had needed. Over the next 3 months, I built a routine. 3 days a week, I worked my own events. 2 days a week, I helped Alina with bigger catering jobs. Weekends were mine to book as I could. I was working 7 days a week, sometimes 14-hour days, but it was different from before. Before, I worked to survive. Now, I work to build. The money came in slowly at first. Some weeks I made $400. Some weeks $200. But it was mine. My labor, my skill, my business. And it added up. By month 4, I'd saved $3,000. Enough for an apartment deposit and first month's rent. I found a studio in an older building. Not fancy, not even nice. But it was mine. My name on the lease. My key. My space. I moved in with my 2 suitcases and a sleeping bag. Alina lent me. No furniture yet. No dishes. No TV. Just 4 walls and a door that locked, and the overwhelming feeling of having made it back from hell. That first night in my own apartment, I sat on the floor and cried. Called Marcus. I did it. I have a home. I never doubted you for a second." His voice was warm with pride. "Now comes the hard part. Building a life, not just surviving one." He was right. Having an apartment didn't fix everything. I still struggled. The truck broke down twice. I lost a major event because I got food poisoning and couldn't work. I had weeks where business was slow, and I worried about making rent. But I wasn't drowning anymore. I was swimming. Sometimes barely, but swimming. Month 6 brought the first real test. Sarah called. Not texted. Actually called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Mom, it's Sarah." "I know who it is." "Right. How are you?" How was I? I was working 7 days a week, running a food truck out of a beater vehicle, living in a studio with a mattress on the floor, and nothing else, eating rice and beans to save money, and I was happier than I'd been in years. But I wasn't going to tell her that. "I'm fine. What do you need, Sarah?" Silence, long and uncomfortable. "Then why do you assume I need something?" "Because you haven't called in 6 months. Because the last time we talked, you wanted to charge me rent to sleep in your garage. Because every interaction we've had for 5 years has been you needing something. So what is it?" "That's not fair, Mom. You're the one who stopped helping us. You're the one who cut us off. Cut them off. Like they were a service I'd canceled, not children I'd raised. Like providing money was my only function as a mother. Sarah, when you got married, you didn't invite me to the wedding. Do you remember that? Not a single word about it until after it happened. That was Tom's decision. He wanted it small. But Lena's parents were there, weren't they? I saw the photos on Facebook." More silence, caught in the lie. "Mom, that was different." "How? How was it different? Explain to me how you could invite your in-laws to the most important day of your life, but not your own mother. I don't want to fight about this. I called because..." She paused. "Because Michael told me what happened. About you being homeless. About living in a shelter. I wanted to check on you." 6 months later, she wanted to check on me. 6 months after I'd hit rock bottom. And only because Michael had told her, not because she'd cared enough to ask. "I appreciate your concern," I said, voice flat. "But I'm fine now. I have an apartment. I have a job. I'm handling things." "A job? What kind of job?" "I run a food truck." "A food truck." She said it like I'd said I was exotic dancer. "Mom, you're 52 years old. You can't work in a food truck. That's for young people." And there it was. The judgment. The assumption that I was too old, too broken, too incapable of building something new. I can and I am, and I'm good at it. Actually making decent money. "Well, that's good, I guess." She didn't sound like she thought it was good. She sounded like she thought I'd lost my mind. "The reason I called is that Tom and I are having some financial difficulties. We're behind on our mortgage, and no, Mom, I haven't even asked yet. You don't have to. The answer is no. I'm not giving you money. I'm not asking for a gift. It's a loan. We'll pay you back. Like Michael paid me back. Like you paid me back all those other times." "No, Sarah. I'm done being your ATM. I can't believe you're being so selfish. We're family. Family." I laughed, sharp and bitter. Where was family when I was evicted? Where was family when I was sleeping in a shelter? Where was family for the last 6 months? You only remember I exist when you need money. That's not family. That's business. And I'm out of that business. "Fine. I was trying to be nice, but clearly you've changed. You're not the mother I remember." "You're right. I'm not. The mother you remember gave you everything, and got nothing back. She's gone, and I don't miss her." I hung up, blocked her number before she could call back. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from power, from finally saying what I should have said years ago. Alina, who'd been sitting at my tiny kitchen counter the whole time, slow clapped. "Damn, Linda. That was beautiful. Cold, but beautiful. Was I too harsh? Too harsh? She called you selfish for not funding her mortgage while you're living in a studio with no furniture because you're rebuilding your entire life from nothing. Nah, you weren't harsh enough. Michael called 2 days later. Same script, different actor. He'd heard I was doing better, wanted to reconnect, missed me, then casually, "Hey Ma, I'm short on rent again. Can you help?" "No, come on, it's just $400. You can afford it now that you have a business." "How do you know I have a business?" Sarah told me. "Said you're running some food truck thing." Some food truck thing. 20 years of my life, and they'd reduced me to some food truck thing. Michael, I'm going to say something, and I want you to really hear me. I gave you $73,000. Over 5 years, $73,000. Do you understand what I could have done with that money? I could have retired comfortably. I could have traveled. I could have lived without working 2 jobs, until my feet bled. Instead, I gave it to you, hoping that somehow, eventually, you'd grow up and become independent. But you didn't. You just learned that Mom would always bail you out. That's not fair. I was struggling. You're 25 years old. Struggling is normal. At 25. Having your mother pay all your bills isn't. I enabled you, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm not doing it anymore. So that's it. You're just abandoning us? No, Michael. I'm teaching you what I should have taught you years ago. How to take care of yourself. You're welcome to call me when you want to talk, when you want a relationship that's not based on money. But if you're calling for cash, the answer will always be no. He hung up without another word, didn't even say goodbye, and I felt free. Lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. That's when things really started to change. Word of mouth is everything in the food truck business. One satisfied customer tells 3 friends. 3 friends become 9. 9 becomes 27. My calendar started filling up. Birthday parties, corporate events, small weddings. I was booking 2-3 events a week, some weeks 4. The money was real now. I was making $2,000, sometimes $3,000 a month. After expenses, I was clearing $1,500, more than I'd ever made at my 2 old jobs combined. I quit the grocery store first, then the office cleaning job. By month 9, the food truck was my only job. I bought furniture. Not new, mostly second-hand, but real furniture. A couch, a kitchen table, a bed frame. I felt like a person again, like someone who deserved comfort and space, and the basic dignity of sitting on a real chair. Alina and I fell into a rhythm. We helped each other with big events, shared suppliers, covered for each other when one of us got sick or had equipment failure. We were building something real. A partnership based on mutual respect and hard work, and the understanding that we were stronger together. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Saturday in late April, almost a year since my eviction. I was catering a quinceañera in a middle-class neighborhood, serving about 60 people, standard event, nothing special. I was making my signature dish, mole chicken tacos, with homemade tortillas, the recipe my mother had taught me when I was 12. A young guy, maybe 25, came up to the truck. He had a phone in his hand, filming. "Hey, is it cool if I record? I'm a food blogger. I do TikTok and Instagram." I almost said no. I didn't understand social media. Barely used my phone except for calls. But Alina had been telling me I needed to get online, needed to market myself better, so I said yes. He filmed me making tacos, asked questions about the mole, about the recipe, about my story. I told him a simplified version, lost my job, started a food truck, building a new life, didn't mention the shelter, or the eviction, or the kids who'd abandoned me, just kept it light and positive. He posted the video that night. I didn't think anything of it. Monday morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing, texts, calls, emails. I thought something was wrong. Then I saw it. His video had gone viral. 2 million views, 300,000 likes, thousands of comments. This woman is goals. I need her mole recipe. Supporting small businesses is so important. Where is this truck? I'm driving from Tucson to try this. Her smile while she cooks is everything. My email was flooded with booking requests. My phone rang off the hook. People were sharing my story, tagging their friends, asking where they could find me. The video had exploded, and I was at the center of the explosion. One video, 2 million views. A completely changed life. Social media gets a lot of hate, but sometimes it can change everything for the right person. If you believe in the power of sharing stories that matter, do me a favor, share this video. You never know whose life might change, because they saw it. Alina called, screaming with excitement. Lena, did you see? Do you understand what just happened? You're famous. I wasn't famous, but my food truck was, and suddenly I had more business than I could handle. I was booking events 2 months out. People were offering premium prices. I raised my rates and they still booked me. I was turning down work because I physically couldn't do it all. The young blogger, Bobby Chen, reached out. Hey, I want to do a follow-up video. Show people your journey. Would you be down? This time I told him the whole truth. About David. About the kids. About the eviction and the shelter and Marcus and Alina. About clawing my way back from nothing. About learning that your value isn't determined by who needs you, but by who you choose to become. That video got 5 million views. My phone exploded again. But this time it wasn't just booking requests. It was other people telling me their stories. Single mothers who'd been abandoned by their kids. People who'd lost everything and were rebuilding. Folks who saw themselves in my story and felt less alone. You give people hope, Bobby told me during our 3rd video together. You show them that 52 isn't old, that rock bottom isn't the end, that you can rebuild. People need to see that. I didn't feel like a symbol of hope. I felt like a woman who'd gotten lucky, who'd found the right people at the right time, who'd been given chances and taken them. But if my story helped someone else take their chance, then maybe it meant something. By month 11, I had a waiting list. I hired 2 part-time employees to help with prep work. I upgraded to a newer truck, one that didn't break down every other week. I was making $5,000 a month, sometimes $6,000. I moved to a bigger apartment. 1 bedroom, a real kitchen, a balcony with a view of the city. I was succeeding. Actually, truly succeeding. Not just surviving. Building. Growing. Creating something that was mine. Then, predictably, Sarah called again. And Michael. Both of them. Suddenly interested in reconnecting. Suddenly proud of me. Suddenly wanting to be part of my life. Mom, I saw your videos. Sarah gushed. I can't believe how well you're doing. We should celebrate. Maybe I could help you with the business. I have marketing experience. She'd worked one retail job for 6 months 3 years ago. That was her marketing experience. Thanks, Sarah, but I have it handled. Well, maybe we could just spend time together? I miss you. The kids ask about you. The kids who she'd kept from me for a year. Who I'd seen exactly twice since my eviction. Both times when Sarah needed a free babysitter. I'm pretty busy right now, but I'll let you know when I have time. I didn't have time. And even if I did, I wasn't spending it with people who only wanted me now that I was successful. Now that being associated with me had value. Michael was more direct. Mom, I saw you're making good money now. I was thinking, maybe you could invest in my idea? I want to start a podcast. Only need about $5,000 for equipment. $5,000 for equipment. For a podcast he'd probably abandon after 3 episodes, just like he'd abandoned every other plan he'd ever had. No. Come on, Ma. Family should support family. You're right. Family should. Where was your support when I needed it? No answer. Just the familiar silence of someone who'd been caught caring only about themselves. I blocked them both again, and I didn't feel guilty. Not this time. I felt clear, certain, strong, because I'd learned something crucial in that year of hell and rebuilding. People will treat you how you let them treat you. For decades, I'd let my children treat me like an ATM because I was terrified of losing them. But I'd already lost them. The children I'd raised didn't exist anymore. If they ever had, what remained were adults, who only valued me for what I could provide. And I was done providing anything except boundaries. Alina and I celebrated my 1-year anniversary of getting evicted by having dinner at a nice restaurant. Real nice. The kind with cloth napkins and wine lists. You remember where you were a year ago? Alina asked, raising her glass. Sleeping in a shelter, eating beans and rice, wondering if I'd ever have a home again. And now look at you. Business owner. Minor celebrity. Living proof that it's never too late to start over. We clinked glasses. I took a sip of wine that cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a week, and I felt something I hadn't felt in longer than I could remember. Pride. Not the fake pride that keeps you from asking for help. Real pride. The kind that comes from knowing you built something. That you didn't give up. That you fell all the way to the bottom and clawed your way back up, one small victory at a time. Alina, I said thank you. For everything. For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You did the work, Mija. I just gave you the opportunity. You made it count. That night, I got an email that made my heart stop. It was from the County of Maricopa Economic Development Department. They were launching a new initiative to support minority-owned small businesses. They wanted to feature my story in their program. And they were offering small business grants and low-interest loans to help food trucks expand. The email mentioned possible grant amounts $50,000 to $100,000. I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. This was it. This was the opportunity that could take me from surviving to thriving. From 1 truck to maybe 2. From working alone to building something bigger. I called Alina immediately. I need your help. I want to apply for this grant. I want to expand. I want to build something real. Then let's build it. We spent 2 weeks on the application. Alina helped me write a business plan, project revenue, outline expansion strategy. We took professional photos of the truck, of my food, of me cooking. Bobby made a promotional video. Marcus helped me practice my presentation. I submitted the application on a Friday. They said they'd notify finalists in 4 weeks. Those 4 weeks felt like 4 years. I worked, I cooked, I served customers, but in the back of my mind, all I could think was, this is it. This could change everything. Week 4, I got the email. Congratulations. You've been selected as a finalist for the Maricopa County Small Business Growth Initiative. Please join us for final presentations on June 15th at the County Administration Building. The County Administration Building. The same building where I'd stood in line for food stamps a year ago. The same building where I'd felt like the world's biggest failure. Now I was going back as a finalist for a $100,000 grant. The universe really did have a sense of humor. June 15th came faster than I wanted, and slower than I could stand. I woke up at 4 a.m., too nervous to sleep. Tried on 3 different outfits before settling on simple black pants and a white blouse. Professional but not pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was a food truck owner, who smelled like cilantro and cooking oil. No point hiding it. Alina picked me up at 7 a.m. The presentation wasn't until 10, but I couldn't stay home. We drove around Phoenix, past the old apartment where I'd been evicted, past the shelter where I'd slept on a cot, past all the places that marked my journey from rock bottom to this moment. You ready? Alina asked as we pulled into the county building parking lot. No, but I'm going anyway. The building looked different in daylight, without desperation clouding everything. It was actually kind of beautiful. Art Deco architecture, clean lines, American flags waving in the hot Arizona wind. A year ago, I'd walked through these doors broken and ashamed, clutching my eviction notice, standing in line for food assistance, because I had no other options. Today, I walked through those same doors carrying a briefcase with my business plan, my financials, my vision for the future. Same building, different woman. The presentation room was on the 3rd floor. 15 finalists, all minority-owned businesses, all fighting for 6 grants ranging from $50,000 to $100,000. We were competing, but there was a camaraderie in that room. We all understood struggle. We'd all clawed our way here from somewhere dark. I was number 12. I had to sit through 11 other presentations, each one more impressive than the last. A woman who'd started a cleaning service that now employed 40 people. A man who'd built a construction company from a single truck. A young couple who'd opened a daycare in a food desert. These were serious businesses. Established. Growing. I was just a woman with a beat-up food truck and a viral video. What was I thinking? Why did I believe I belonged here? Then I heard Marcus's voice in my head. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to succeed. You already have everything you need. Number 11 finished. The panel of judges, 5 people in suits who held my future in their hands, called my name. Linda Martinez, Alina's Kitchen food truck. I stood up, walked to the front, set up my laptop for the presentation, looked out at the faces watching me. The judges looked tired. They'd been sitting through pitches for 2 hours. How was I going to make them care about one more food truck? Then I saw him, Marcus, sitting in the back row. He'd come. He'd actually come to support me. And next to him, Bobby with his phone, ready to capture whatever happened. And Alina, giving me a thumbs up. And Rita from the shelter. And James. And even young Destiny. All of them there. All of them rooting for me. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. Not really. I just had to find the right people. I cleared my throat and began. My name is Linda Martinez. 3 years ago, I got an eviction notice on my 52nd birthday. I lost my apartment, my savings, and my belief that hard work mattered. I ended up in a homeless shelter, sleeping on a cot, wondering if this was how my story ended. The judges looked up. I had their attention. But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because when you lose everything, you discover what you're really made of. You discover that rock bottom has a gift. It shows you who you are when all the pretending stops. I clicked to my first slide. A photo of me at Mercy House, tired and broken but still standing. I learned to cook from my mother in Guadalajara. She taught me that food isn't just fuel, it's memory, culture, love. It's how we connect to each other, how we remember where we came from, how we build community. When I lost everything, I still had that. I still had the ability to make something beautiful from simple ingredients. Next slide. Me and Alina's food truck, learning, working, building. Alina Rodriguez gave me a chance when no one else would. She saw potential where I only saw failure. Together we built something, not just a business. A model for how women can lift each other up, how mentorship works, how we create opportunities instead of waiting for them. Next slide. The viral video screenshot. 2 million views. Last year, a young man filmed me making tacos and shared my story online. Suddenly people cared, not because my food was revolutionary, though I think my mole is pretty damn good. That got a small laugh from the judges. But because people are hungry for stories of resilience. Hungry for proof that it's never too late to start over. That 52 isn't old. That homelessness isn't a life sentence. That one person believing in you can change everything. Next slide. My financials. Real numbers that showed real growth. In 2 years, I've gone from homeless to running a profitable business. I'm booking 15 to 20 events per month. My revenue last quarter was $18,000. After expenses, I cleared $12,000. That's not huge money, but it's honest money. It's sustainable, and it's growing. Next slide. My expansion plan. I'm applying for this grant to do 3 things. 1. Purchase a second truck, and hire 2 full-time employees. Single mothers, formerly homeless individuals, people who need a second chance like I needed one. 2. Develop a catering kitchen, where I can prep at scale, take on bigger events, create jobs. 3. Launch a mentorship program. I want to teach other women, other people, how to do what I did, how to turn survival skills into business skills, how to build something from nothing. Final slide. A photo of me and Alina, Marcus, Bobby, all of us together at my apartment, smiling. If you invest in me, you're not just investing in a food truck, you're investing in a model for economic recovery, for community building, for showing people that the American dream isn't dead, it just looks different than we thought. It looks like a 52-year-old woman who lost everything and built it back, one taco at a time. I closed my laptop, looked at the judges. I don't have fancy credentials. I don't have a business degree. What I have is grit, skill, and a community that believed in me. That's what I'm offering you, a chance to bet on the underdog. And I promise you, we don't lose. The room was silent for a moment. Then one of the judges, an older black woman, smiled. Miss Martinez, you said we. Who is we? We is every person who's been counted out, every 50-something who's been told they're too old, every homeless person who's been told they're worthless, every woman who's been told her value is only what she gives to others. We is all of us who refuse to believe that our worst moment defines our whole story. She nodded slowly. Thank you. We'll be in touch within 2 weeks. I gathered my things, walked out of that room not knowing if I'd won or lost, but I knew I'd told my truth. I'd stood in front of people who could change my life, and I hadn't apologized for existing. That was its own kind of victory. Alina hugged me in the hallway. You killed it. Absolutely killed it. Marcus shook my hand. I'm proud of you, Linda. That was powerful. Bobby grinned. That's gonna make a great video. If you win, no, actually, even if you don't win, your presentation was fire. We went to lunch, celebrated like I'd already won. Because in a way, I'd faced my fears. I'd asked for what I deserved. I'd shown up as my full self, not some diminished version designed to make other people comfortable. 2 weeks. I had to wait 2 weeks for an answer. They were the longest 2 weeks of my life. I worked. I cooked. I tried not to obsess, failed miserably at not obsessing. Checked my email every 5 minutes. Jumped every time my phone rang. Day 13. I got a call from an unknown number. My heart stopped. Is this Linda Martinez? Yes. This is Patricia Hernandez from the Maricopa County Economic Development Office. I'm calling about your grant application. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, just waited. We'd like to invite you to a meeting next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Can you make it? A meeting, not a congratulations, not a rejection. A meeting. What did that mean? Yes, I can make it. Great. Please bring any relevant documents about your business. We'll see you then. She hung up. I stared at my phone. What did it mean? Alina thought it was good news. They don't call you in for a meeting to reject you. They do that by email. Marcus agreed. This is them dotting their I's and crossing their T's before they cut the check. I wanted to believe them, but I'd learned not to count on anything until it was real, signed, deposited. Tuesday came. I dressed carefully again. Professional Linda. Business owner Linda. Woman who deserved opportunities. Linda drove to the county building for the 3rd time in 2 years. Same building where I'd gotten food stamps. Same building where I'd pitched my dream. Same building that had witnessed every version of me. Broken, surviving, fighting. The meeting was in a conference room on the 4th floor. Patricia Hernandez was there, along with 2 other people I didn't recognize. A man in an expensive suit, and a woman with a tablet. Linda, thank you for coming. Please, sit. Patricia gestured to a chair. Let me introduce you to Thomas Richardson from Richardson Development Corp. and Maria Santos from the City Planning Commission. I shook hands, confused. Why were these people here? Linda, Patricia began. Your presentation was exceptional. Your story, your vision, your numbers, all of it impressed us. We've decided to award you the full $100,000 grant. My brain stopped working. $100,000. The maximum. I'd won. However, Patricia continued, and my heart sank. There was always a however. Mr. Richardson saw your presentation and was very intrigued. Tom, would you like to explain? The man in the expensive suit leaned forward. Miss Martinez, I develop commercial properties, mixed-use spaces, retail, residential, community areas. I'm currently working on a project in downtown Phoenix, a food hall concept. Think of it as a permanent home for food trucks and small vendors, climate-controlled, shared seating, high foot traffic, great visibility. I nodded, not sure where this was going. I want you to be one of our anchor tenants. I'm offering you a 10-year lease at below market rates. In exchange, you'd commit to being open 6 days a week, maintaining quality standards, and participating in community events we'd host at the space. A permanent location. No more driving around. No more weather challenges. Steady foot traffic. This was huge. But there's more, he continued. I see what you're building. The mentorship, the second chances, the community impact. I want to invest in that. I'm prepared to offer you $2 million in capital to expand your operations. You'd use $1 million to build out your food hall space and a full catering kitchen. The other $1 million would go toward your employment and mentorship program. In exchange, I'd take a 30% stake in your business as a silent partner. You'd maintain full operational control. I couldn't speak, couldn't process. $2 million? A permanent location? This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Miss Martinez, Patricia prompted gently. Are you okay? I don't understand. Why me? There were 14 other finalists. More established businesses. Why invest in a food truck? Thomas smiled. Because you're not just a food truck. You're a movement. You're proof of concept, for economic recovery, for second chances, for building wealth in communities that have been locked out of traditional funding. I've been in development for 30 years, and I've never seen a clearer vision or a better story. I believe in betting on people, not just businesses. And I believe in you. Maria Santos spoke up. The city is also interested in supporting this venture. We'd fast-track your permits, help with zoning, connect you with other resources. We want to make Phoenix a model for how cities support small business recovery. This was happening, actually happening. I thought about the woman I was 3 years ago, holding an eviction notice, believing my life was over. I thought about sleeping in a shelter, wondering if I'd ever have a home again. I thought about every moment of doubt, every failure, every time I wanted to give up. And I thought about Marcus telling me that rock bottom was a gift. About Alina believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. About Bobby's video giving me visibility. About every person who'd shown up, who'd helped, who'd proven that we rise together, or we don't rise at all. Mr. Richardson, I said slowly, I accept your offer. On one condition. He raised an eyebrow. What's that? 5% of my profits go to funding other women entrepreneurs. Women who are where I was. Homeless. Desperate. Talented. But invisible. I want to create a fund that gives them seed money. Mentorship. Real support. Because someone gave me a chance, when I had nothing. I need to pass that forward. He smiled. Looked at Patricia. Then back at me. Make it 3% and we have a deal. I'll match your 3% with another 3 from my end. That's 6% of profits going to your fund. I did the math in my head. If the business grew the way I projected, that could be $50,000 to $100,000 a year, going to help other women. Real money, real change. Deal. We shook hands. Maria pulled out contracts. These are preliminary agreements. You'll want to have a lawyer review everything before signing. I don't have a lawyer. You do now, Thomas said. My firm will provide legal counsel pro bono for the first year. Consider it part of the investment. I sat there, surrounded by papers that represented more money than I'd ever seen. more opportunity than I'd ever imagined, and I started laughing. Not polite laughter, deep, almost hysterical laughter that came from somewhere primal. "I'm sorry," I gasped. "I'm sorry. It's just 3 years ago, I was standing in the food stamp office in this building. In this actual building. I was so ashamed I couldn't look the caseworker in the eye. And now I'm sitting here signing a $2 million deal. In the same building. It's insane." Patricia smiled warmly. "It's not insane, Linda. It's justice. It's what happens when talent meets opportunity, and someone has the courage to bet on themselves. You did that. You bet on yourself when no one else would." We spent 2 hours going through paperwork. I called Alina from the conference room. She screamed so loud, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I called Marcus. He cried, actually cried. "I told you," he kept saying. "I told you this was possible." I called Bobby. "I need you to film something. Right now. Meet me at the county building in 20 minutes. When the meeting finished, I walked outside with Bobby. Stood on the steps of the county administration building, the same steps I'd climbed in shame 3 years ago. "Tell me when you're recording," I said. He nodded, held up his phone. In 3, 2, 1, go. I looked at the camera, looked at all the people who'd followed my journey, all the people who saw themselves in my story. 3 years ago, I got an eviction notice on my 52nd birthday. I stood in this building behind me, applying for food stamps, convinced my life was over. Today, I stood in that same building and signed a $2 million deal to expand my business. Same building, same woman, different mindset. I took a breath, felt tears threatening, but pushed through. If you're watching this, and you're at rock bottom, if you think it's too late, if you believe you're too old, or too broken, or too far gone, you're wrong. You're so wrong. It's never too late. 52 isn't old. Homeless isn't hopeless. Failure isn't final. You just need one person to believe in you. And if you can't find that person, be that person for yourself. I thought about Sarah and Michael, about all the years I'd spent trying to be enough for people who would never see my value. I spent decades measuring my worth by how much I could give other people, how much I could sacrifice, how much I could provide, how much I could shrink myself to make them comfortable. And it almost killed me. What saved me was learning that my value isn't what I give. It's who I am. It's the skills in my hands, the strength in my heart, the refusal to stay down. The tears came now, but I didn't care. To everyone who's been abandoned by family, overlooked by society, counted out because of your age or your circumstances, you are not alone. There are people like Marcus who'll remind you who you are. People like Alina who'll give you chances. People like Bobby who'll share your story. People like Thomas who'll bet on your potential. You just have to stay alive long enough to find them, and you have to believe you're worth finding. I wiped my eyes, smiled through the tears. My name is Linda Martinez. I'm 55 years old. I own a food truck that's about to become a food hall empire. I went from sleeping in a shelter to signing a multi-million-dollar deal, and if I can do it, so can you. Don't give up. Please. The world needs whatever it is you're meant to build. Bobby stopped recording. That was perfect. That's going to help so many people. He was right. The video got 12 million views. 12 million. My phone exploded with messages. News outlets wanted interviews. Other investors reached out. But more importantly, I got hundreds of emails from people telling me I'd given them hope, that they'd been ready to give up, but my story made them try one more day. That's what mattered. Not the money, though the money was life-changing. Not the fame, though the visibility was useful. What mattered was that my pain had purpose, that my struggle could light someone else's path, that I'd turned my worst chapter into someone else's inspiration. The food hall opened 8 months later. Linda's Kitchen had prime corner space, a full commercial kitchen, seating for 40. I hired 6 employees. 5 of them were formerly homeless. All of them were people society had written off. All of them were proving society wrong. Alina moved her truck into a space next to mine. We were partners in every sense, running our businesses side by side, supporting each other, building something bigger than either of us could have built alone. The mentorship program launched 3 months after that. We started with 10 women, taught them cooking, business skills, financial literacy, helped them build credit, save money, dream bigger. 8 of them started their own food businesses. Within a year, 8 success stories. 8 people who wouldn't have had a chance without someone investing in them. Marcus came to every graduation, stood in the back, crying proud tears, watching people he'd once comforted in the shelter walk across a stage and receive their certificates. "This is what it's all about," he told me. "This is what we're here for, to lift each other up." A year after the deal, Sarah reached out again, this time through Facebook Messenger, because I'd blocked her number. "Mom, I saw your success. I'm so proud of you. I know we haven't been close, but I'd really like to reconnect. The kids want to know their grandmother." I read the message 3 times, felt the old pull, the old guilt, the old hope that maybe this time would be different. Then I remembered who I'd become, what I'd learned, what I deserved. I typed back, "Sarah, I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm not interested in a relationship built on my success. You had the chance to know me when I had nothing, and you chose not to. That was your choice. This is mine. I wish you well, but I'm not available to be your mother anymore. I'm too busy being myself." I blocked her on Facebook. Felt no guilt, no sadness, just clarity. Some relationships are meant to end. Some people are meant to stay in your past. And that's okay. That's healthy. That's choosing yourself. Michael never reached out again after I said no to his podcast funding. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was still struggling, still bouncing from job to job, still looking for the easy way. I felt sympathy, but not responsibility. I'd done my part. I'd raised him, loved him, given him every advantage I could afford. What he did with his life from here was his choice, not my burden. 2 years after signing the deal, I stood in front of Marcus's community center class. The same class he'd invited me to teach back when I was living in the shelter. 15 people sat in folding chairs, all of them at rock bottom, all of them wondering if they'd ever climb back up. "My name is Linda Martinez," I began, "and 3 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you're sitting, broke, homeless, convinced my life was over." I told them my story, all of it. The eviction notice on my birthday, the children who abandoned me, the shelter, the food truck that barely ran, the viral video, the $2 million deal signed in the same building where I'd once applied for food stamps. They listened like their lives depended on it, because maybe they did. "The only difference between where I was and where I am isn't luck," I told them. "It's not being special or talented or deserving. The difference is that I found people who reminded me I was human when I'd forgotten. I found Marcus, who showed me the map. I found Alina, who gave me a chance. I found Bobby, who told my story. I found a community of people who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I looked at their faces, saw my old face reflected back. You're going to find your people too. They're out there. But first, you have to decide you're worth finding. You have to decide that this isn't your ending, it's your middle. The part of the story where everything looks impossible right before the breakthrough happens." After class, a woman approached me, maybe 50, thin, scared eyes. "Do you really believe it's not too late for someone like me?" I put my hand on her shoulder. "I know it's not. Because 3 years ago, someone my age asked me the same question. And here I am. Proof that it's never too late. Never." She started crying. I hugged her, felt her hope mixing with her fear, her desperation mixing with her determination, felt myself in her. Remembered what it was like to be that scared, that lost, that desperate for someone to tell you it would be okay. "What's your name?" I asked. "Angela." "Angela, here's my card. Call me tomorrow. I'm hiring for my kitchen. Pays $18 an hour to start. Plus meals, plus training. If you're willing to work hard, I'm willing to teach you everything I know." She stared at the card like it was made of gold. "Are you serious?" "I'm always serious about giving people chances. Someone gave me one. Now it's my turn to give you one. Call me tomorrow." She did call. She showed up. She worked her ass off. 6 months later, she was my kitchen manager. A year later, she was developing her own recipes, talking about maybe starting her own truck someday. Another success story. Another person who just needed someone to believe in them. That's what my life became. Not just running a business, but creating opportunities. Not just making money, but making meaning. Not just surviving, but showing other people how to thrive. I'm 55 now. I own 3 food trucks, a food hall space, and a catering kitchen that does $800,000 a year in revenue. I employ 18 people. I've mentored 47 women through my program. I have an apartment with a view, a car that doesn't break down, and savings account that makes me feel secure. But more than any of that, I have peace. I have the knowledge that I rebuilt myself from nothing, that I chose myself when no one else would, that I turned my pain into purpose and my suffering into service. I still wear David's ring around my neck, still think about him sometimes, wonder what he'd think of the woman I've become. I think he'd be proud. I think he'd be surprised. I think he'd understand that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what you're really made of. The eviction notice is framed on my office wall, not as a reminder of failure, but as proof of resurrection. Same piece of paper, same woman, different story, because here's what I learned. Rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. And you can build anything on a solid foundation, even a life you never imagined was possible. My name is Linda Martinez. The eviction notice came on my 52nd birthday. 3 years later, I signed a $2 million deal in the same building where I once stood in line for food stamps. And if I can do it, I promise you, so can you.